Okay, so in honor of Mental Health Week, I wanted to have a quick chat about dealing with anxiety and depression. And here's what I know about dealing with anxiety and depression, because funny story, I spent about a decade with a serious, paralyzing social anxiety issue. Um, Probably actually more than that, frankly. And then I had real reasons uh, to be anxious about social situations, but that's a whole other story. When I was about 20 years old, I was going to school at Cal State University. I was hanging out with some friends down at Oceanside, and we're hanging out at this dude's house. And we're all smoking a bunch of weed, and it became very apparent while we were all incredibly high, and I'm like riding my happy little hippie vibe, that one of my friends was up to something very shady, and she got really nasty and intimidating with me, and I like went into a panic attack and ended up hiding out, literally hiding out in the closet for a day. Like legit. I went and sat in the closet. So um, that spiraled into every time I was around any of those people, or then eventually any people, um, I became socially anxious about what was someone trying to do to me. Like I was just constantly fearful, and then it became just fear about even as much as judgment, because judgment would lead to the action of them doing something to me. So you can see where all this went. It spiraled to the point that I ended up dropping out of school at Cal State and going back to Tennessee, where I then proceeded to have even worse social anxiety and worse drama. There was drama there anyway. And the things that helped me out, though, in the end, I graduated and I went to London. And the beauty of going from somewhere really small and really insular to somewhere like London is you realize very quickly that you don't matter. And it puts you and all of your bullshit in perspective. And the thing you realize, in a place like London, there's this really great movie called I Really Hate My Job. And there's a girl in it. They're working in a cafe in London, and there's a girl in it. There's an American girl, and she's going on about how upset she is and how yoga's not helping her. And she's talking to one of her coworkers, and her coworker, who's a German girl, she says, "Tomorrow you should walk around and look at really old things." And the American girl goes, "Why?" So I can figure out how insignificant my existence is in the grand scheme of things. And the German girl says, "Exactly. In the grand scheme of things, us, our anxieties, our little melodramas, whatever we've got going on, especially just in our head, doesn't matter that much." And so that perspective of, and then traveling the world and seeing people with real problems and real suffering, like in the third world, like these things will put your own little head dramas in perspective. That was one thing. Another thing, and I studied psychology. I actually ended up, as I was a psych major for a while, I ended up taking it on as a minor later because I had enough credits. But I've studied enough psych and seen enough treatment, and after my mother's death, been through enough counseling myself to understand that fear is not your enemy. Like fear is your friend. Know, fear is what kicks in our ancestors. If you were being chased by some kind of wildebeest or something, fear is what kicks in your fight or flight mode. If you didn't have fear, you wouldn't have the thing that says, "Hey, man, you should be concerned to save your own life right now." So fear is your friend. You have to make a friend of it. You have to see it as an obstacle to be overcome. You have to see it as a challenge. Just like if you go to a gym and you pick up a weight and you lift it and repeatedly to try and build up a muscle, facing fear builds up your emotional and psychological muscles. So you have to see it as an opportunity and embrace it and enjoy a challenge in life. And that's where dealing with anxiety, um, that's the strength of it. That's where the value in it comes. That's where the growth comes from. And so the best way, in my personal opinion, and the thing that worked best for me was to treat it as a phobia, because phobias are just fears. And the way you treat a phobia is if someone's scared of spiders on session one, you bring them into a room and they're in a room with a spider in a container across the room. Next session, you bring them closer into the room. By the fifth or sixth session, maybe you have them hold or touch the spider. It's about confronting the fear. It's about confronting the anxiety. I spend loads of time. See this mirror right here? I spend a lot of time looking in this mirror, looking into my own eyes and saying, okay, What are you scared of today? What do we need to face today? And if there's anything, then I make sure I have a total 120% honesty policy with myself, which we should all have with ourselves. And I say, okay, what do we need to do to deal with that, confront it, whatever it is. So, even now to this day, like if I get high, I I feel anxiety, but I do it anyway because I enjoy that challenge of saying to myself, okay, what's that about? Because all it does is amplify stuff that's really there. So you have to enjoy the ongoing everyday challenge of spiritual maintenance. Meditation will help a lot. Uh, I do a lot of yoga, but those things aren't necessary once you integrate into yourself the constant maintenance of looking in that mirror and being willing to be honest. Um, and accepting anxiety and accepting it as fear and then making a friend of it. And that's the first key to everything is I went through this phase for years where I was just like, okay, just snap out of it, just snap out of it, just snap out of it. But you create more anxiety about the anxiety, and then it's just a snowball effect. So rather than trying to fight it and giving it more power, you have to embrace it and you have to integrate it and you have to look at it as something that is an opportunity for growth. So I made a video about this before, right in bed. I didn't even get out of the bed, but I got up, actually combed my hair a bit, and then decided to sit in front of you and have a proper chat about it in honor of Mental Health Week. That's my experience with social anxiety. For a while, I did, when I first got back to Tennessee, it got so bad when I went back to school that I had a prescription for Paxil, which I don't know if it still is, but used to be used to treat social anxiety. And eventually I got myself off of that as well. And, it's all possible and it's all doable if you're willing to commit. I've considered doing online, just like cognitive therapy, discussion, talk therapy with people in need, because I know how bad anxiety can be if it's left unchecked, if it, gets enough power in your life. So challenge it, realize you have anxiety, and don't let anxiety have you. That's the key. So take it easy, everybody. Carpe diem.